What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Nivo Show. Today we've got my good friend Mark from Split Screen here again. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's been a
Good.
while since we've sat down and had a talk. Me and Mark have been really good friends here on YouTube and Discord and everything for years now, man. It's actually
Long
wild how
time.
long it's been
Yeah,
at this point.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, time flies. I mean, I just
It
remember
does.
a few years ago when Battlefront 2 came out, and that's when, me, you, Sammy, Twisted, all these different people kind of connected together and stuff. So it's cool that we've been able to like maintain contact and,
Yeah,
loose contact for years now. I think
yeah, it
that's
is really nice.
something I'm grateful for Battlefront 2 is like kind of a lot of the people I've met from that game. It's
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
It's a great
Yeah, that's the
community.
thing. It's been like loads met like loads of friends from it, and yeah, it's been nice to like even though Battlefront's gone for now, hopefully, um, at least like we've made like friends for life with a lot of people. So yeah, and we'll get more Star Wars games that we'll have those friendships in again, and we'll be able to sort of play them together and stuff. So that'd be cool.
Right, absolutely. Well, we've got some very interesting topics today, especially regarding Star Wars games. We're gonna touch on pretty much every single Star Wars game that we know is coming, as well as rambling on a good bit about a potential Battlefront 3 and who we think could make it and what we think the likelihood of that game happening is. And then we'll do a little bit of reminiscing on Battlefront 2 and kind of the beautiful memories we have from
Oh
those
yes,
glory days, and then we'll talk a little bit about our channels in the future of YouTube and everything. So, I guess getting started, into this, we have multiple upcoming Star Wars games that are confirmed, but a report actually came out from Tom Henderson the other day that Disney wants a new Star Wars game every 6 months. So that basically entails we're getting two Star Wars. They want to give us two Star Wars games per year, which I
yep.
think would be incredible. So what are your thoughts on that and kind of the games that we have coming?
Um, well, when I saw that, like, I don't know what it was. Like, I wanted to get back into like YouTube more anyway, but like seeing that just gave me such a big like buzz, like a burst of life all of a sudden. Like, sort of. And the thing is, like, I know a lot of people don't like leakers and, say obviously you can't trust them, but like Tom Henderson's been right on like Battlefield, Call of Duty, and so much over the last few years that, like, if he says that, Disney want two Star Wars games per year, it's probably true. Like, obviously take it with a grain of salt, but yeah, like if we get two Star Wars games a year, that's incredible. Like, we've gone through such a big drought over the last 15 years. From 2015 to 2020, we had four games from EA, which isn't too bad in all fairness. Um, but like going to two games a year, like that's nuts. Like we're going, that's almost going back to 2002 to 2008 when we had 18 games in that period of time. So it's like very obviously very exciting. And the games we do know about so far, of which there are eight, like there's a nice variety in what they are. So yeah, just excited to see what they all are eventually, and what else is to come. So yeah,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah, I'm very excited too. I've Star Wars games have been very hit or miss for me in the past. I'm a huge fan of like The Force Unleashed. I'm a huge fan of course, every Battlefront game that's ever made, the old ones and the new ones. Those are the
Yep.
ones that have really hit home for me. But I am very excited to see what they do. And I like what we're seeing from Star Wars right now, where they're you could tell they're obviously trying to kind of take advantage of the hype behind it. And I think, we are blessed in a way because Disney is, putting out so many shows, and now it seems like they're taking the initiative on, releasing games. And, looking at the list right now, every Star Wars game in development, Amy Hennig's game, and I believe she used to be like lead director on like the Uncharted games. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. So she was the like, I think, well, yeah, she created the Uncharted games basically. Like she was one of the leads on it, and she was actually working with EA on a game codenamed Project Ragtag, the Star Wars game.
Hmm.
So this is essentially a second chance for her, which is really nice.
Yeah, I
Because like,
remember. when that game got canceled, I remember being very frustrated because they
Yeah,
went as far as to show a teaser trailer for it, and we, we're looking at it and like, okay, this is a game we're definitely going to get. Like, this is
yeah,
full blown going to happen, and then some drama happened and they ended up canceling it. So I'm glad that she's going to get to move to another studio, and that it seems like Lucasfilm really liked her vision, because the fact that they went back to her, even though her EA game
yeah.
got canceled, the fact that they went back to her
Mhm.
speaks volumes, I think. So I think we can definitely be excited for that, and then. Another one
Yeah,
that I'm
absolutely.
extremely excited for is Respawn's Untitled first person shooter. Obviously, we are still trying to scratch that Battlefront itch. We love being able to plop down on the battlefield and, live out our Star Wars battle, fantasies and stuff. So it looks like a Respawn first person shooter would be able to kind of scratch that itch a little bit if we don't get Battlefront anytime soon. So
Yeah.
very excited for that. What do you think that game is going to be? Obviously, we don't have any information, but like, what speculation do you have around the Respawn game?
So my initial thoughts on it is it's going to be a bit like Squadrons in that it's like decent length campaign and then small multiplayer. But as opposed to, like, so obviously with Squadrons, like, it released and that was it. Like, it got 2 updates because the community requested it so much, but then after that it was like that was done. With like a first person shooter from Respawn, like, it's just, it's bread and butter to them. Like, they've done Titanfall, they've got Apex Legends. Like, first person shooters, like, are literally in their blood. So I'm kind of hoping that it's one of those things that it releases as a pretty small scale game, but the multiplayer just gets developed over the next sort of couple years with live service content and stuff like that. um I don't think it's going to be anything particularly like big. It's not going to be like Battlefront, I don't think, but I'm kind of expecting it to be like 5v5, sort of almost tactical shooter-esque, like maybe like Rainbow Six or something like that. I think would be really cool. Like, that's my one of my ideal games. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good idea. I think that could definitely work. I'm just excited to see what they do, because as you said, Respawn with Titanfall, and of course Apex Legends, which is one of the bigger games out there right now.
Hmm.
They obviously know what they're doing in the first person shooter genre. So I am excited to see what Respawn can churn out for us there. And then looking at the Ubisoft open world game, which that's been talked about for a long time. I mean, I feel like that got announced years ago, and we still haven't
Yeah.
seen anything about it really. So I'm also curious as to what that is. Ubisoft being the creators of like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. I wonder if their game will be something similar to that. The fact that it is open world. Ubisoft
Yeah.
is it's another game company that's very hit or miss to me.
No,
It seems
absolutely.
like they're like a baby EA kind of, where it's like they're like EA in a lot of ways, in my opinion. But I mean, what do you think about what that game might be?
Yeah, so that's coming from Massive Entertainment. So they created the Division and obviously Division 1 and 2. So my assumption essentially is that it's basically going to be a Division game, but with a Star Wars skin in a way. Like, you can create your own character. It has a story that you play through, but is also pretty much like online co-op as well in a sense. Yeah,
That could
I
be
think it's going
interesting.
to be like almost a bit like a looter shooter, but Star Wars open world, like basically like the Division.
Think
Yeah,
about
that's my assumption.
a Destiny style Star Wars game. I feel like that would
Yeah, I
be
think that would
super
be
ideal.
amazing.
That would be
Yeah, it's
super
like
ideal.
something like that would be great. And they've sort of got the Division and Destiny. Obviously, whilst they're not obviously the same, they do share some similarities, especially with the whole looting system and whatnot. So yeah, I think we can definitely see like a loot shooter Star Wars open world game. That's yeah. I'm kind of hoping it's like you create your own character and they're sort of part of a crew. They play a story a bit like it's Squadrons. You have your own pilot. You can create them yourselves and whatnot. Um, and the story you play through is canon, but like you don't really know who you are, but like everyone else is there and they play through. You play through their story, but then like maybe you can get to do some like PvP stuff as well. That would be pretty cool. I don't know, just yeah, something like Destiny, but Star Wars would be really cool from them.
Right.
They're obviously working on the Avatar game as well, which comes out next year now. So um, yeah, be interesting to see what they do with that and see what that could mean for Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what that ends up being. I guess I was initially thinking it would probably be, like an Assassin's Creed single player only type thing. But now that
Mhm.
you mention that does make a ton of sense, and they'd be able to monetize the hell out of that. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably more likely there. But next up, Star Wars Eclipse. Personally, from all the games that have already been announced, I think Star Wars Eclipse is the one I'm most excited for from Quantic Dream.
Ooh, controversial.
I know it's controversial, but I
Sod
absolutely
it,
love
honestly.
Detroit Become Human. Detroit Become Human was one of my favorite last gen games. I
Yeah.
absolutely love like a heart wrenching story where your decisions matter and you can get characters killed and stuff. I love games like that. And Quantic Dream, all controversies aside, Quantic Dream has done that wonderfully in the past.
Mhm.
So I'm very excited to see what Star Wars Eclipse ends up being. Of course, we saw that cinematic trailer, but it was just a CGI trailer that literally
It
didn't
was,
show
yeah.
us anything. But the
Good trailer,
I
though.
think they've officially announced like you're going to be able to play as multiple characters. It's
Yep.
going to be semi-open world, if not fully open world.
Yeah,
So
I don't think so. The main thing they've kind of said is that it's open world, not open world. Sorry, it's you play as multiple characters, and like your decisions change the story. Basically, that's basically all they said. Um, Rumors from account NGT who leaked a couple images from the trailer and the name officially. Like he leaked the logo and an image of the trailer literally a whole week before the trailer came out. So you can kind of tell he's again legit. Like obviously take it with a grain of salt, but he basically said that it's going to be open world, and it's going to have a competitive multiplayer element as well to it. Like depending on how it probably won't be too big, but it could have competitive multiplayer. So it's something completely new to Quantic Dream. Like it's a very big thing for them to step into, but it's also got that old Quantic Dream sort of feel where your decisions in the story matter and can change how things go. So yeah, it should. Like I'm really excited for it. Again, like obviously there's a lot of controversy, but with them as a company, it sucks to see like David Cage being like the scoundrel that he is
of
work on it.
course,
But like
and
at
that's
the end of the day,
unfortunate that some people are gonna, have they feel the need to boycott the game, and like I understand, but I like it just looks like it could be one of those dream Star Wars games that where like like I said, I love any sort of game where you can like Until Dawn or Detroit Become Human, where if you make the wrong choice, your favorite character could die, and like there's
yeah,
nothing you can do about it. And I think that sort of tension when you're playing a game like that is incredible, and the fact that they're doing that in the Star Wars universe is very exciting to me. Of course, there have been the rumors that like their vision for this game is too big for them, and then they're like struggling to actually like make it happen. So I remember I don't know the exact details, but a few months ago, maybe close to a year ago now, they put out feelers for like, hey, we need some help on this game because
mhm.
this is a huge undertaking for them. So hopefully they can get it done.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. So um, they announced the game in December at the Game Awards last year. Um, and I think they basically like Quantic Dream wanted to be acquired by someone because they needed funding, and also they're struggling to hire people because of David Cage and the controversy behind the company. Like there's a lot of people who don't want to work. They don't want to work. People don't want to work for them, so they're struggling with that, and as a result, like the project is taking hits from that. But they actually like a couple months ago they got acquired fully by NetEase. So I think they're a Chinese company, I can't remember, but they got fully acquired by them. So that should help them with the funding they need, and will hopefully benefit the game quite well. But it's not going to release until like probably 2026 or 2027, so it's a long way off. It
Yeah,
really is a long way off.
dang.
But that's why like a lot of these Star Wars games have been announced so early. Like the Ubisoft game won't come out until 2026, I imagine.
Mm.
But they were announced so early so that people knew about the game and were like, hey, I want to go and work on a Star Wars game. Like that's like mostly the point is to get more developers interested in working for them. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, Star Wars Eclipse definitely a game that I'm most excited for on this list. Now, obviously, if they were to come out and announce a Battlefront 3, there would be no contest. Like that's obviously what I want the most. But Star Wars
yeah,
Eclipse does come across to me as like one of my dream Star Wars games. Then next up we have Knights of the Old Republic remake, which you know more about the situation than me, but as as far as I know, they had to like move the development of the game to a completely different company than it initially was, right?
Yeah, so what happened is it was announced last September. Like it was heavily rumored for a while, but then was officially announced last September with through a PlayStation event with the teaser trailer, and it was being made by Aspire Media. Um, Aspire Media are known for basically making ports for like the PlayStation and Nintendo Switch of old Star Wars games, and they've done this for like 20 years plus. Like they did it for Call of Duty for the MacBook like years ago, and so they've been around. They've done that for a while, but they've never really made their own original games. So like this like KOTOR, for example, is a big thing for them. And earlier this year, Saber Interactive came on board to like help them develop the game. And then in July, they made a demo for Lucasfilm and partners, so like Sony, to play it, see what they thought about it and stuff. And whilst apparently Aspire Media were happy with how it was going, Lucasfilm and Sony weren't. So Aspire Media have been pulled off the development of the game, and it's now been moved fully to Saber Interactive, who are a company that have made their own games plenty before. They've got a lot of experience in it and stuff. So yeah, it's now fully over at Saber Interactive, and because of that, it's probably going to like take another year or so to develop, maybe more, just because that shift is pretty big. Like it's a big deal. So yeah, it's very unfortunate. I think it was potentially going to come out this year, like probably within the next couple of months, but because they weren't happy with how it was going, it's now being changed. So
yeah, I was about to ask if you had any sort of speculation on when that game might come out.
I think now it's probably going to be 2024. Because so as part of that article that Tom posted, so 2 games per year, one big like AAA game, one smaller game. So I think the Respawn first-person shooter might be a smaller project that release, so akin to Squadrons, that will release in 2024, and then like KOTOR Remake will be like the big AAA game that releases in 2024. Okay. That's just my theory. But
yeah, no, I mean that makes a lot of sense, and you know, I can't wait until we like get into the full cycle of what they want, you know, because obviously it's still a year or two off to where we're getting to Star Wars games per year.
Unless next year will be the first one.
Yeah, next year we'll have Jedi Survivor, of course, which is the next on this list. But you know that one speaks for itself. I feel like that's the one we know the most about is Jedi Survivor. You know, we've got a full trailer for it. You know, we've played the first one, so we kind of know. You know, we know what that's going to be for the most part. And then Star Wars Hunters, that's a game that you've been focusing on your channel a lot. I know
massively.
You're big on that, and you've been covering that a lot. So if anybody is interested in Star Wars Hunters, be sure to go check out Split's channel because he's covering that very, very extensively, right?
Yeah.
So you know, again, you obviously know way more than me about Hunters. So I mean, what can gamers expect from that one?
Well, in short, what I'd say is so obviously at heart it's a mobile game, but don't let that discourage you, because it is genuine. I've been playing it for nearly a year now, and it is a lot of fun. Like I'm not the biggest mobile gamer myself, but I'm enjoying playing it on my phone. It will be on the Nintendo Switch as well, free to play, of course. So if you want that console experience and you have a Switch, then you will be able to have that console experience, which is great. In terms of the gameplay, though, like, you know, it's 4 versus 4, it's arena combat. Like, it's a bit like, it's essentially a bit like Overwatch, but a Star Wars mobile version, in a sense. That's like the shortest way I'd describe it. But no, it's fun. Like, you know, it's a multiplayer game only. It will likely get content for a couple years and a consistent basis. Like, so it's currently in soft launch, which means they're very much testing things out, seeing how things can go. Like, a big thing with soft launch is looking at player attention, right? So it's like, how many players, you know, played this? How long did they play for? Do they come back? What makes them stay for longer and whatnot? So, so far that, you know, they've added new hunters, they've added a bunch of cosmetics, they've added events to play through. Like, you know, when an event comes up, it's like X amount of challenges, like deal 4,000 damage, like heal your allies for this much and stuff. So it's just like simple in-game challenges to do, and you'll get rewarded for it. And they've also done battle passes as well with cosmetics and whatnot. So What I will say, obviously, they have done battle passes, but all of that content that has been in battle passes, you should be able to get at launch, not a problem anyway. But no, it is good fun. Like, they're really testing things out. Like, I think when it does launch, it'll have more characters than it does now, and it'll be more fleshed out. And yeah, like, it genuinely is a really fun game. And if you want a Star Wars multiplayer fix, then Hunters could very well fill in that void until the next big AAA shooter comes out, if that's what people really want. So
yeah, it seems like
it's good
it
fun.
could be a cool game to kind of like fill that. Because I mean, the way I looked at it, I actually have never played it, but I've seen some gameplay and stuff, and it kind of looks like a almost like an HVV style of game, kind of where like in Battlefront 2, heroes versus villains.
Yeah, it pretty much is. It's just so Heroes versus Villains in Battlefront 2 is just like team deathmatch, but with heroes, which is how it was in the classic games. But with Hunters, it's like actually objective based mode. So you've got control. So there's a central control point. You just fight to get the control point and hold it for as long as you can until you get to 100% or until time runs out. You've got escort, which is very, again, like escort in Battlefront 2. You just got to get this one thing from one place to another. And then there's Hutball as well, which is like is essentially like Hutball is a real sport within Star Wars. And if you've played Star Wars: The Old Republic, you might have played it on that. It's a bit like handball in a way, where there's like a ball that pops up, you take it and you can like throw the ball, you can pass to your teammates and throw it in the goal and score and stuff like that. It's good fun. So yeah, they're the 3 modes in the game at the moment, and like every character you play out, like there's like what are known as hunters. That's the point. There are 10 hunters currently. Like, they're all unique in their own way. They all have tons of great customization and stuff. So I genuinely think like I mean, I think everyone should give it a go anyway if they're Star Wars fans. But like, I think it will genuinely be a good way to like get that Star Wars gaming like fix until something better for other people might come out.
Okay.
Because I think I'll be playing Hunters for like easily until like support ends and maybe more, depending. Because I'm genuinely really enjoying it. But it might not be for everyone, obviously, but it might be enough until like the Respawn first person shooter comes out, maybe.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't paid too much attention to it, but I definitely need to get into it because it does look cool. I just never,
Mm,
I don't know. I just haven't thought about it too much. But and
yeah.
then finally, the last Star Wars game that we know is in development is Respawn's untitled strategy game. And when I think of strategy game, I kind of think of like I played a game growing up. I think it was called Empire at War, I believe.
Yep. Yeah.
And I played
Empire
that a
War.
lot on my computer, where it's kind of like a real-time strategy where you're looking over top and you can direct your troopers to go attack a certain spot. And it's like kind of a battle strategy game. Do you think that's kind of what they're aiming for there? Or
So yeah, there are 2 ways that I think it will be done. It will either be done like Empire at War, where it's sort of over the top, you're looking and you're doing this big battle scenario, or there's another way which will do it, which I think will appeal more to me. So I think it's a bit like XCOM, but also so it's worth saying this Respawn strategy game is also being co-developed with BitReactor, and BitReactor was set up by the creators of XCOM. So if you played XCOM, then you'll probably like this. There's a strategy game though that I got for free on Epic Games, so I want to play it at some point. But it's called Mutant Year Zero: Road to Eden. You may have seen it. It's like there's trailers for it, and there's like a boar and like a mutant duck, and it looks quite interesting. But in that, from what I've seen, it looks like you basically just like control. It's sort of like top down, like almost over the shoulder, but quite far back. You control where the character moves and whatnot. But then in battles, that's where it becomes more of a strategy. So this might not mean anything to a lot of people, but like in Dragon Quest IX, for example, it's a game I played on DS. Basically, you get to walk around in the open world freely, but then you get into a battle and then it's turn-based combat, right? And I think, I think it could be a bit like that, where it will tell a genuine story, like the battles and stuff are strategy based, like turn-based potentially and whatnot, but then you actually get to walk around and do stuff. So
That's
yeah,
a cool premise. I mean, personally, like I said, I grew up on Empire at War, so like I would love something similar to that where I can just send
yeah,
my troopers into battle and watch them. And there would be times you'd send a squadron, to try to take a certain point or to try to infiltrate a base or whatever, and they'd all get mowed down, and you're like, well, damn, like that didn't work.
damn,
But
yeah,
it was always fun. and you like, you just sit there and cheer on your troopers as they, try to win a battle. You're like, please, send in an ATST and, see if
Yeah.
that works and stuff like that. So that's personally what I would want from it. But I mean, that's a good, what I want versus what you want. I think both of those would be like pretty cool to
Yeah.
see.
I think I'd be happy with both, but I feel like I'd prefer to have something more like the Mutant Year Zero thing where you control the character and then you do the battles and stuff, because I feel like if you want to tell a story, that's probably the better way about going about it.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, if it was like a Clone Wars strategy game, then like hell yeah, I'd love something like Empire at War, because you could still tell a story, but then you can literally just have massive battles between clones versus droids, and it's like that would be sick.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm kind of hoping that has multiplayer as well, because imagine doing a strategy battle against your friends.
Yeah. No, that'd
That
be
would be
super
cool.
fun.
That'd be
And
awesome.
that's another thing, Respawn. It's obvious they trust Respawn so much. I mean, that's 3 games in development just from Respawn,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
crazy.
it's a sub developer of EA. So I mean, they're not even like their own massive studio. Like this is just
Oh no, they absolutely are. Like EA is the publisher and Respawn like the development studio, really. So
oh really? So okay, maybe they're
yeah.
bigger than I was giving them credit
Oh
for,
yeah,
but
like Respawn are huge. I mean, they've obviously done Titanfall, and now they're doing. Thing is, so they're currently working on at least 5 games, right? Because there's the 3 Star Wars games. They're working on Apex Legends, and they're working on their new IP as well. So they got 5 games in development,
dang.
which is pretty
Okay,
nuts.
maybe I was underestimating them then, because
Like they're like bigger than DICE,
oh wow,
I'd
okay,
say,
yeah, I
so
was way
they're
off base
similar.
then. I
Yeah,
was
they're
way
like
off
similar
base.
to DICE, I'd say,
Okay. Okay.
maybe
Well, then
bigger.
that makes a little bit
So
more sense. But either way, it's really cool that they're, getting that much trust, and I love the fact that we're not going to be stuck on just one exclusive company, because EA had the exclusive gaming rights to Star Wars, and I just think that held us back from getting a lot of really cool games.
no, it did,
And
yeah.
so I'm very excited. Like I'm not like the typical person who just hates EA's guts. Like I love what we got with both Battlefront
Oh
games.
yeah,
I
same.
think they
Like
did a great job with Fallen Order. I think they've done a great job with Star Wars gaming as a whole. Like there have been some issues and some misses, obviously, but I think as a whole we've gotten some really solid experiences. So I don't hate
for
EA like
sure.
everyone else does, but I'm glad that we're now going to be able to open up to other companies, and like we get to see Ubisoft make a game, we get to see Amy Hennig's studio make a game, we get to see all these other different studios take a stab at it, Quantic Dream and all that. So I'm very happy about that. But moving to the next topic, is a Battlefront 3 possible? When this news came out the other day about, hey, are we, we might be getting 2 Star Wars games per year, I think everybody immediately just went to Battlefront 3. They're like,
Yeah,
obviously, if we're getting 2
I saw
games
a
a
lot of
year,
that.
if we get 2 games a year, that ups the likelihood of, I mean, why would you not make a Battlefront 3 if you're trying to put out a AAA game every single year? It only makes sense with how big the Battlefront fan base is. I mean, say what you will about the rocky launches of both of the games that EA DICE released, but I mean, Battlefront 3 has a massive fan base, and still to this day very loyal. And I think a Battlefront 3 would sell so many copies, especially
It
if they
would
executed it properly.
easily.
So there's the I guess the report came out that EA shot down DICE's pitch at a Battlefront 3 because they didn't want to pay the licensing costs for it, which makes no sense because they still have other studios. EA has other studios making Star Wars games. So like what is your take on that, and like how does that even make sense?
It doesn't. That's the simple answer is it doesn't make any sense. For many reasons. Obviously, well, yeah, they're working on Star Wars games, right? So they're paying the license fee for those games anyway. So it's a bit like, huh? Like
Right.
makes
Like
no
you're already
no sense.
paying it.
But what really frustrated me the most, and this only happened last week, right? So EA, did you see EA Motive announce their Iron Man game?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I heard of it. Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. Don't get me wrong, but Jeff Grubb was basically saying about how like EA, like from EA's perspective, it's easier to get an established IP off the ground than it is a new IP, which is like,
Right.
yeah, makes sense, right?
Battlefront.
And then it's like, so because it's easier to get an established IP off the ground, it's like EA saw that the licensing fee was worth paying, but then a year ago it was like the license they didn't want to pay the licensing fee for Battlefront 3, so that's why they shot it down. And it's like you look at that, and it's
Like what
like
happened? It
what?
doesn't make
Like
any sense. It
it
makes no
makes no
sense.
sense at all. And it's like Sorry,
Well, you're good.
it's got a hair in my mouth. That's weird.
You're good.
And it's just like, what? It doesn't make any sense. It's like 1 year, like on the biggest, like on easily probably like the biggest game you could ever have. You're like, nah, don't want to pay the licensing fee.
Yeah,
And then like on an Iron Man game, which no doubt I'm really excited for it. I hope it goes really well. But like it probably won't sell as much as a Star Wars game. Just
no,
saying. Like no sense. It doesn't make sense. And if you look at obviously you mentioned earlier that Battlefront games, both of them had a bit rocky launches, but Battlefront 2 in particular came back incredibly well. The player base doubled from December 2019 to January 2020. They cancelled it at its peak. And then, like less than a year later, it went free to play on Epic Games Store, and it got 19 million downloads. Like, if they made Battlefront 3 and had it free to play, and they monetized it well, and it was on PC, on Steam, Origin, whatnot, Epic Game Store, it was on Xbox, and it was on PlayStation. If they launched it free to play on all of those systems, they marketed it well, they monetized it properly, there was no issues whatsoever, then they would very easily see 100 million players. I guarantee you.
it'd
You
be
look
the
at
biggest game in
Fortnite,
the world.
you look at Fortnite, Warzone, and Apex Legends, all of them have hit 100 million active players.
Right.
And it's like, if you're getting 100 million players on that, and then you take the biggest franchise in the whole world and you make it a sequel to Battlefront 2, which, when, by the end of it, was incredible, right? In a lot of people's perspective, that's
Yeah.
moolah. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it
really?
was
Like,
it
it
was
just doesn't make sense.
arguably the biggest comeback in gaming history, with how
Mm.
bad the launch is. Some people were saying it's the most catastrophic launch in gaming history. Like the way, and I like, not in terms of how bad the game was, but just in terms of the backlash, like the loot box controversy and stuff. Like,
Mm.
I personally didn't really get the outroar and the outrage about the loot box stuff, because I didn't feel like it was even that bad personally, but maybe I was just biased from playing the game and enjoying the game. But like the
Mm.
comeback it made, like it was getting re-reviewed by IGN and stuff. Like all these people were re-reviewing it, revisiting it. You saw all these big YouTubers revisiting it, and
Mm-hmm.
like the hype, like you said, was at an all-time high when they canceled it, and like the player base was peaking, and it was like everything was going so well. And they literally canceled it because they weren't making enough money off of it. From my full understanding, that's the only thing that makes sense. They weren't putting out monetizable content, and so they were not making money off of it anymore. And they wanted to pull the devs off to work on Battlefield 2042, which ended up being a disaster as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a frustrating situation as a whole. But looking at this potential Battlefront 3 of the future, if EA and DICE are not willing to do, if EA and DICE are
Don't say EA.
if EA and DICE are not willing, bro, I'm gonna
You got to
keep
keep
this
that
in.
in. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep this in. Stella, stop. Oh my god.
God damn.
If EA and DICE are not willing to make this Battlefront 3 due to licensing costs, what do you think the odds are that another company picks it up? Because you actually informed me of this the other day. I wasn't aware. I thought Battlefront was an EA DICE IP. Obviously, my dumbass didn't think about the fact that another company, 2 decades ago made Battlefront. So I don't know why I didn't think
Yeah.
that through. But I, for some reason, was under the impression that it was an EA IP, but it is a Lucasfilm IP, which means any company, they could hire any company to make the next Battlefront game. Do you think that that's more likely than EA making the third one?
Not really. It's hard, right? Because we're in a really weird situation with it, I think, because another studio probably could come along and do it, but it's like, well, who really makes large scale shooters like that? No one really does, to be honest. Like, I don't think I think DICE would and still are the best people to do it. And they've obviously got the experience of doing 2 Battlefront games within the last decade anyway. So it's like they know exactly what they're doing. They know the process. Like, yes, okay, the last 2 Battlefields have, sort of flopped a bit. Not great. Both Battlefront games launched a bit poorly. but Battlefront 2 in particular came back like incredibly well. Like they found a formula that works. And I think if they had a serious sit down and a talk about it, they could actually come to their senses and be like, right, this is what we need. Like we can do this. They like the problem with 2042 is they try to reinvent the wheel way too much.
Right.
And that's why people don't like it too much, because they took away classes and they introduced specialists instead, and 128 players doesn't really work. And like, yeah, it's cool with lots of people, it just doesn't really work. And there are other things as well, like the maps just weren't great. Like the level design for it was just a bit pants in certain areas. So they're literally reworking all the maps, which is great. But you know, they've done it before where they've done it now several times where they've launched games poorly and they start bringing them back. Like Battlefield 5 launched poorly and they started to bring it back, but then cancelled it. Battlefront 2, they launched, I mean, successfully, not to be fair, but perception was poor, and they brought it back really nicely, and then cancelled it just after that, which is a bit like, what the fuck? Battlefront 1, I wasn't around in the community, so I don't know what the general consensus was, but that was a successful game. So it's like, yeah, I think DICE should be the ones to make a Battlefront 3 because they still can, but like just keep it, go back to basics. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just look at what they did with Battlefront 2, and just sort of follow that formula. Yes, okay, take advantage of the next gen and do some cool stuff, but don't, keep the class system, keep the hero system, just, keep the battle point system. They had so many great features in that game that they should keep. And then just like when you do something different, maybe that's the campaign, or maybe that's, just different maps and whatnot. I don't know. Just like if Battlefront 2 came back, but labeled as a Battlefront 3 and was getting new content, like people would be happy with that,
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Or
it's
if
just like,
I mean, I'd even be okay with if they just came back and were like, okay, we're gonna just continue to support Battlefront 2, and we just have
yeah.
a new way of monetizing it or whatever. And like, okay, fine. Like, if you want to introduce a battle pass system to Battlefront 2, you add a couple of maps and stuff for free. But then, like, if you want to get a specific scanner or whatever, like they can make so much money off that. I won't even get into that too much because that's a whole
Yeah.
other rant in and of itself. But I think the only real issue with DICE and EA like making another Battlefront game is that all of the OGs, all of the people who were so passionate about the IP, like Dennis Brandval and Ben Walk, like those guys are gone. Like the Brandval, does Brandval even work for DICE or EA anymore? Like he's
No, so Dennis left EA and DICE, and has gone elsewhere. I think he's gone to Microsoft to work on a Mandalorian game, but that's purely speculation just because his Twitter like cover photo is of the Mandalorian, and he's got some like Mandalorian like phrasing in his bio, I think, as well.
that would be
But that
interesting.
Mandalorian game is just heavily rumored. So that's where I think he's gone, but he's obviously not said. Ben Walk is still at DICE. He's a producer on Battlefield 2042. So he's not community manager anymore. He's a producer. Like a lot of people are still there, but it's just like Guillaume, so like lead hero designer, he's gone. Christian Johansson, he was like weapons designer on Battlefront 1, and then like basically character designer for like the clone troopers and stuff in Battlefront 2. He's gone to Massive Entertainment, probably to work on the Star Wars game. And then yeah, so like some of like your big devs have gone, but most of the people that worked on the game are still there.
I guess we would
So
just have to find. I mean, Dennis was such a like champion of the people while he was there. I mean,
yeah,
like we hailed Dennis as
everyone
our
loved him.
savior because I mean, it really did seem like once they promoted him, because didn't they promote him and then things started to turn itself around? It seemed like it was like once he got more creative control, it seems like that's when things started to really turn around for the better.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly.
I think that's how it went, as
It
far
would
as
have happened pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, like they had a community manager, like yeah, they had a community manager, like Sledgehammer.
I remember
He's
him. Yeah,
still to this day got the most downvoted Reddit comment of all time, I believe. So yeah, he I don't know if he left or he got fired. I imagine he probably just left because he wasn't potentially wasn't dealing with the hate so well. and he shouldn't, he didn't deserve it, but
No.
he left. Ben Walker came in from Ghost. I think he was at Ghost, who were working on Need for Speed and whatnot. He then came in as community manager. And yeah, I mean, Dennis was, I think, design. He was like a core part of the team anyway, but then, yeah, I think a couple people who were sort of senior in Battlefront 1 were still senior on Battlefront 2, and then after Battlefront 2 launched, I think they then left, and then yeah, maybe Dennis then got more creative control, but like they announced the Clone Wars stuff 7 months after launch, I think, so they would have had it planned for a while anyway, but obviously a lot of it was set back, and I think they changed. Like, I think originally Ahsoka was probably going to be in the game from like within the first year,
Because
but
Dennis
because of,
confirmed that Ahsoka was going to come at some point, right?
yeah, so last November, Dennis confirmed that the next sort of like big thing was Mustafar for a map, Ventress and Ahsoka as heroes. Like, I know you
That is
hear that and it's like,
so
oh, it's so
fucking
depressing.
depressing, bro.
I know.
Oh my god. Could you imagine?
Yeah, because the thing is, as well, like Star Bazaar had this theory originally, and you look at it, it's like fuck, like he's right. And so the ISB agent reinforcement that came into Battlefront 2, that pose is Ahsoka's pose. They fully, that is an animation. That is probably Ahsoka's idle animation within the menu screen. And then her face, the ISB agent face, is a lot of people were saying like that's Padme. Like she looks a lot like
I
Padme.
heard that a lot,
So I
yeah.
think Padme was probably coming as well, but then they just like resculpted her face a bit to look slightly different. So
That
the
is
ISB agent is very much like a blend of Ahsoka and Padme, which is
uh,
pretty rough.
yeah, I remember when that report came out, or it wasn't a report, he literally tweeted it, but it was like, yeah, Ahsoka, Ventress, and Mustafar, bro. Oh my gosh. Like, obviously I would have loved Padme, and anything else they would have added, I would have loved, especially if it was Clone Wars related. But
Yeah,
Ahsoka and Ventress on Mustafar, like that's perfect. That was like the last thing I absolutely needed to have in the game. And
yeah.
it's just
Thing is,
so
imagine if we
impressive.
did get that right. Imagine if we got that, and then that was when it was cancelled. Like, yes, it would still be awful, but like just those extra two heroes and that map, like I just think the game would have
Absolutely.
felt so different. It's just like
Absolutely. It just ended
it's so
so
rough.
unsatisfyingly. It was like,
Yeah,
okay, like Scarif was a cool map, but like
had it before.
it didn't, yeah, we've seen it before. It didn't really add anything crazy to the game. Like if they had ended on Ahsoka, Ventress, and Mustafar, it's like, all right, like y'all gave us the coolest shit we could have possibly wanted, the
Hmm.
coolest thing we could have possibly asked for this final update. So I feel like it would have stung a little bit less. I
Yeah,
just
no,
think
it
that
absolutely would have done. Yeah,
going out on Scarif was just like, again, I like the map. It's cool. Like it was a cool update, but it just wasn't satisfying enough for all that we
yeah,
had been through with the game, the ups and downs, everything. I feel like if we had ended on Ahsoka and Ventress and Mustafar, that would have been the ideal way to go
yeah.
out.
Like I think I would have been a lot happier if that's how it went down, but I still would have been like, well, they ended it, but like when they ended it, we had Mando season one. It's like after Ahsoka, Ventress, and Mustafar, it's like, well, add a Navarro map and then add Moff Gideon and the Mandalorian as
Yeah.
heroes. It's
Yeah.
like Andor's come, but the Book of Boba Fett came out. Okay, we'll give Boba a skin, add Fennec Shand as a hero,
And Cad
um,
Bane, maybe.
and Cad Bane as a hero and Fennec Shand as a hero. Fucking wonderful. And then you go for Bad Batch came out, maybe add like a Bad Batch member as a hero, and then like maybe add like Hunter and Crosshair as a hero and villain, and then add a bunch of skins for the into the game. And it's like Andor's coming out now. Okay, Cassian hero, and maybe like Cyril Khan as a villain, unless he changes to the Empire, or just like add then some like Imperial guy
Yeah.
into the game, and then add a Ferrix map and all this other stuff. And it's just like, if you look at every single TV show coming out now, you're just like, why the hell is there no Battlefront 3 being made right now so that we can get content on this? Like Battlefront, like Star Wars Battlefront is the pinnacle of Star Wars gaming. Like if you like, it's like the only Star Wars multiplayer game I would ever need is Battlefront 3. Like I'd be
Yeah.
really happy with that. Like sure, okay, I want a multiplayer pod racing game. That'd be fucking sick. But like if I had Battlefront 3, I'd be set for life.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's just
just imagine as new shows come out, as new movies come out, as new entertainment comes out, you pair that with
Mm.
new content in Battlefront 2 or in Battlefront 3, whatever the case may be, and it's like that hype compounds, man. Like, oh, I'm super hyped for Andor, but I'm also hyped to get, a Cassian in the game and a new
Mhm.
map. Or, when Kenobi was coming out, like, oh, obviously I'm super hyped for Kenobi, but we also get battle damaged Anakin
Shit, yeah, I didn't even
slash
realize that
Vader,
Kenobi.
or we
Yeah,
get old, like middle-aged Obi-Wan. It's
yeah,
like the ability that they have, the opportunity that they have there that they've wasted by not doing another game, or by not continuing support on Battlefront 2, is just sickening to think about. Because now it's like, even if they do make a new one, I don't think that they're going to be because at that point it's not the same. Like, if they release a new game, it's like Cassian being in the game doesn't hit as hard as it would have been if he was being released as a DLC
mhm,
while the game was, I'm not wording it
yeah.
properly, but I think you get
No,
what I
I
mean.
know what you mean though.
Like,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
wouldn't
like,
hit the same.
I think what I'd actually love to see is DICE in so like because like here's the thing: if they made Battlefront 3, you'd have to go like you can't not have like Kashyyyk, Endor, Tatooine. Like we've had that so much, but you can't not have that. What I would love for them to do is just essentially remaster the Battlefront PS5, like essentially just remaster the Battlefront 2 multiplayer. So ignore the campaign. If you want to play that, fine, but just like go and play like the original. But like remaster the multiplayer for next gen and obviously therefore PC. And at that point, just you release it there. I know it's not that simple, but essentially you remaster the multiplayer and then you re-release it, and then you add content from that point onwards.
Yeah,
Like at
absolutely.
that point, if they remastered the multiplayer, we'd be where we are now, but with like it's upgraded, fancy, wonderful, love that. But then also then at that point, it's like, well, they can just go and continue adding new maps to Galactic Assault and Supremacy, and add new features to it as well, like single player Galactic Conquest or something. And it's just like, oh,
Yeah. I mean, it
like I
seems
love that
pretty
it won't happen.
straightforward to think about. There's so many, and it's not even just one way they could do it. Like, there's multiple ways that they could have done this, and it seems like of all the decisions they could have made, they made the one wrong one, and that was to just
Yeah.
stop. Like, Star Wars, it's revisiting its peak. We're starting to get to the point where, like, people are like, Star Wars has become like the talk of the town again, as it
Mm.
has been gradually for the last few years since it came back in 2015. And it's like, the hype is there. You're gonna sell a Star Wars game. It doesn't matter what it is, it's gonna sell. But Battlefront, like you said, is the pinnacle of Star Wars gaming. Like, it literally is you experiencing getting to play with all your favorite characters, getting to play in on all your favorite locations, getting to, be part of these big battles that we see in the movies and shows. And it is the pinnacle of Star Wars gaming. It is Star Wars gaming. Like, it's
Yeah.
all this other stuff is cool, but Battlefront is what you think of. At least myself, that's what I think of when I think of Star Wars gaming. So
Yeah.
the fact that they're not taking advantage of the opportunity right now is very frustrating, because we could be playing with these new characters. We could be playing with Mandalorian and Battlefront. We could be playing with, Ahsoka and Ventress on Mustafar. We could be doing all this, but we're not, because they just made the one decision they shouldn't have made, which was to just end the game at its peak and then not make a third one. And it's just
Yeah.
mind-boggling to me. I cannot believe still to this day that happened, and that this is currently happening, and that it looks like we're not getting one anytime soon. It makes no
Yeah.
sense.
This thing, if they like, even if they announced it like next year, I don't think we'd see it for like ages. Because there's always been these rumors of like, oh, it is happening. But then obviously there was that whole thing last year where it's like it got shut down. It's just like, come on, like just give like I really want DICE just to like give it another shot and just be like, this is what we want to do. Like you've seen all of the Star Wars content that's coming out. Like it's so easy for us to make content for this game and sell it. And it's just like
And they fixed their
it's
public
baffling.
perception. They fixed their
Yeah.
perception. Everyone was hating on them so much, but when they brought the game back from the depths of hell where it was, it was getting just bashed by everyone. Like, any casual gamer that wasn't playing the game thought that it was a complete failure, thought that it was a terrible game and stuff. And it was brought back from the depths. They worked
Mm,
so hard to fix it. They finally got the public perception back in a positive light, and then canceled it at its peak. And it's just
yeah,
that makes no sense to me. There's no logical explanation for it, and it's very unfortunate. But
it is.
that's it's the unfortunate reality. As much as it sucks, hopefully we could just continue hoping that we get one sometime soon, or
Yeah.
at least get some announcement, some sliver of hope that it's going to happen.
Mhm.
But the last topic for today is kind of just the future of YouTube and our channels. Like, YouTube is rolling out a lot of quality of life improvements, for channels and stuff. So it's getting kind of exciting to be a YouTuber again, with all these
Hells
cool
yeah.
things that they're starting to integrate. But, since Battlefront died, we've seen across the landscape of Battlefront YouTubers, people have really struggled to find their next thing. They've struggled to find their niche after Battlefront 2 died, me included. I've been just floating in the wind ever since Battlefront 2 died. Like, I haven't known what to make videos on. I've been streaming just random assortment of games. It seems like you have done a good job of finding kind of a niche, with the Star Wars Hunters content and kind of just reporting on Star Wars news and stuff. So, but what do you think about the future of YouTube and kind of like where we're headed as a community? I feel like there's still a pretty tight knit Battlefront community, even though Battlefront's been gone for years now.
No one's
So
ever really gone.
yeah, no one's ever really gone. So
No,
how are you feeling about your channel and about the future?
really good, to be fair. Like, like we were talking before we started, like, we have been in a drought of Star Wars games for over a year and a half now. Like, it was it was like 21 months ago that the Ubisoft open world game was announced. And that's pretty much like when the drought started. Like, even though last year was incredible for game announcements and stuff, like an announcement, there's a lot of hype at the time, and then instantly it dies, and then that's it. And we don't. The problem is we're not going to hear about loads of these games for years anyway. But no, I'm feeling really positive because I think the hype for Fallen, for Jedi Survivor next year will be great. Hopefully, Hunters will release, and the hype for that would be great. And um, I do have a lot of hopes for Hunters, in that, like, as we were just saying about Battlefront 3, like, they could add so much content inspired by all these shows and whatnot. But I think Hunters also, like, any multiplayer has the potential for that. But I'm really excited for Hunters because, like, so far they've only got maps for Endor, Hoth, and Tatooine, but I'm hoping that eventually they'll add maps for the prequels. And although the game, like, timeline takes place before the sequels, they can still add maps based on sequel planets because they're obviously not going to be, new to the universe and whatnot. But then it's like, Andor comes out. Okay, so assuming Hunters was already out for a while, then, like, they could add a Ferrix map to Hunters, and that would be cool. It wouldn't be the same as the Battlefront feel, but I just think it'd be really good. So, yeah, I'm just really excited for Hunters to come out because I think that's when things will really start, like, moving forward. And then we'll see. I think Hunters will definitely, like, tide me over really nicely and the channel until the next sort of big multiplayer styles game comes along. But no, I'm, as ever, I'm optimistic. I think, we would have had 2 years of really slow, somewhat news every now and then, just but really slow period of time. But next year with Survivor and Hunters, I think things will start to really pick up again. And, we should get more game announcements next year. And then just every year it'll be like, maybe one or two new announcements, but then also one or two releases, So I think starting next year, I don't think we'll be in trouble anymore with Star Wars gaming. So, I mean, from, like, a general perspective, really excited for that. But then with the YouTube updates and stuff, like shorts and live streams separating and shorts being monetized as of early next year, I'm really excited to just, like, trial new types of content over the next few months and really try and hit the nail on the head with that, so that I can just really just hit the ground running next year, because that's, like, more what I'm thinking about, really.
Well, I'll say I've always been in awe of your consistency and your positivity when it comes to YouTube. Because I mean, dude, you're a warrior with this stuff, man. Like, you pump out that content regardless of what's going on, regardless of the situation. It's extremely
Yeah,
impressive to me
do
because
my best.
I've always struggled with, I've had a lot of ups and downs with YouTube. I like making videos, but the payoff hasn't really been there for me. And like, I struggle to come up with ideas and
Mhm.
things of that nature. I definitely prefer streaming anyway, but I'm a little bit concerned, with my channel. I'm very like, obviously I love Star Wars and I've always been kind of a Star Wars centric channel, but I think the more realistic direction for me would be like Hogwarts Legacy comes out early next year. I am unbelievably excited for that game.
I'm hyped for that. Yeah, I can't
I
wait
will
for
probably
that.
be covering that a good bit, with videos and content. And I'm really just looking to find my next Battlefront, because obviously when Battlefront was going on, all I did was make videos about Battlefront. All I did was stream Battlefront. So it was my niche. It was where I had a direction for the channel, but now it's like, I don't know. And I'm not like, as much as I'm excited for the future of Star Wars gaming, like my passion for it isn't quite high enough to like fully dedicate my channel to it.
Yeah,
So it's like, I'm kind of floating in the wind until the next big thing comes. Like Elder Scrolls 6 is easily the most anticipated game in my entire life. Like I've never wanted a game more than Elder Scrolls 6. Like
yeah,
as much as I want Battlefront 3, Elder Scrolls, like Skyrim's my favorite game of all time. So Elder Scrolls 6 is like, that's something that I'll definitely be making content on. But if the funny thing is, if they were to announce a Battlefront 3 tomorrow, that's all my channel would be. I'd be
yeah,
speculation videos, discussion videos, and then once stuff starts coming out, covering news. So it's like, that's where a good bit of my frustration stems from with the whole Battlefront situation, is because it's like, how many channels got left out to dry because Battlefront died, and we
yeah.
thought that the momentum was high enough to where, hey, we'd be able to make Battlefront videos forever, and it
Mhm.
obviously isn't that way. So, but like I
Yeah.
said, I really commend your consistency and everything with YouTube, because
No, I
you have
appreciate that.
stayed consistent regardless. And it's like me, I get way
Yeah.
too discouraged and I just don't feel like doing it. But you're a warrior with this stuff, man.
Yeah, I think like even since Battlefront 2 ended, it's been at least like I used to do like 3 videos a week, but then I went down to 2, and then at the start of this year I went back to 3, but because it's so quiet, I had to go back down to 2. But like I don't think I've missed a week in like a few years.
That's
So
insanity.
so it's
That's
like even though
insane.
it's
My
just
last video was like 3 months ago.
yeah, it's just like the thing for me is like I worry that I worry that if I stopped, like I'd find it really hard to pick back up again. In terms of like the channel, like I'd love to do obviously pick up back up again, but like the channel itself would really struggle. It probably wouldn't. Like I think I'm worrying too much about it, but like I
It's
just
valid.
think it's nice to like keep consistent, because even if I'm even if things are stupidly quiet, which they are right now, um, at least there's something coming out. And I always just think as well, like if people find my channel in like a few months' time, they've got countless videos to go and binge watch if they want to as well. And like, when if I find a new channel that I really like, I'll go back and watch like a ton of their videos. Like there's an Australian trio called How Ridiculous, and they're a bit like Dude Perfect in the way they just do like
Yeah, I've
really
seen them.
wacky stuff. And like I found their channel about a year ago, and I went back and watched all of their videos from the last few years, and to the point where I've pretty much watched all of their videos, and it's just like I really enjoyed that, and I just feel like yeah, if people like found my channel and did the same, like that, it would just be a really cool. It'd just be a cool feeling, And even though videos don't do well now, like that's not going to mean they won't get views in the future. Because
Absolutely.
like sometimes I'll look back and like a video, I actually saw a video get a view the other day, and the last view before that was like well over a year and a half ago. But like, so even though it hadn't got a view in ages, like it's still gonna get a view, and that's just like that's quite motivating for me. Um, and it's just like, yeah, it's just sort of like riding like the shallow waters at the moment, and just sort of constantly preparing for like the big wave to just come and hit. And yeah, I just like I know this is like what I want to do, so I'm gonna work my ass off to make sure I can do it. That's the
Right.
thing.
Absolutely.
Even if it takes time, like even I'm starting my final year at uni, so obviously I'm going to focus on that, because that's like one of the most important things I'm ever doing at the moment. So I'm on target for a good grade, and I want to make sure I get it, so that if I can't do this after uni, then that's fine. Like I'll still do it on the side, and I'll go and get a job and I'll work hard and do what I can to hopefully be able to do it someday. But like at least I'm doing it. And I think the main thing as well is like I'm also just doing it for fun. Like, yeah, it's being quiet, but like I like talking about this stuff. I could do it all day. So I'm constantly finding things to talk about, which is nice. Even if it's the big thing with YouTube sometimes is you've got to try and like look at the trends and see what's trending and focus on that. But like, there's not been anything trending for a while. So it's like I'll just go and talk about whatever the hell I want for 3-4 minutes and like I'm happy,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, it's
yeah,
I mean, it's the dedication is definitely impressive. I'm hoping someday I'll be able to get to that that level of consistency, because I think a lot of it has to do, I mean, a lot of YouTube has to do with momentum. It has to do with, your viewers and your subs seeing you every day or like every couple days. They see your video, and whether they watch it or not, it's like you're still there. You know what I mean? They still know you exist
yeah,
constantly. They're not going to forget about you, which that's very important with this type of stuff. So, really impressive, and I definitely
appreciate it.
foresee a very bright future for you on this website for
No,
sure. So,
appreciate that. No, and
um,
the thing is, like, once you find that thing, like, Hogwarts Legacy could be, your big thing. And when, Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, like, maybe you will get onto that. And hopefully there is a Star Wars game that comes out that you really want to focus on. But, like, it's you just do have to keep on pushing, because, like, anyone can make it. That's the thing. You just need to stay consistent if you can, and just really find that thing. Because if you're not doing something you don't, if you're doing something you don't enjoy, it's not worth doing. And like, I enjoy making Star Wars gaming content, so that's why I've been doing it so consistently for the last few years. Because if I wasn't enjoying it, I wouldn't be doing it.
right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, this was a great episode. We just crossed the hour mark. We've talked about a lot of things. Very excited for the future of Star Wars gaming, but still, it's
it
like
was, yeah,
very excited, but there's still that slight dampener on my excitement because we still don't have Battlefront 3, or
still
it
can.
seems as if it's not going to happen anytime soon. So,
Yeah,
but trying to stay positive, trying to stay happy, because we do have a lot of cool stuff coming. So thanks for coming on and discussing this. It was
that's
good
right.
to get
Appreciate having me.
it was good to get your insight on it. And yeah, maybe we'll be back on here for another one sometime in the future.
Yeah, anytime.
All right, man.
Appreciate it.
Peace.